Hi, doing this video in response to a series of questions that I got from out there in internet land from someone called Sunny, who got in touch to say they're having a bit of confusion with major and minor and all different major chords and minor keys, minor chords and major keys and so on. So I thought what I'd do here is just a quick overview of major, the different types of minors, and explain a little bit about why we get major chords and minor keys, minor chords and major keys and so on. So to start off with, let's talk about the major scale. I'm going to talk about a few different scale types here and some theory concepts like chord construction. I'm not going to go into the theory in a whole lot of detail, but there are already some videos up on the YouTube site, so what I'll do down there in the information section, I'll post some links to some of the videos that you might find useful if you're not too familiar with the theory that we're going to cover here, because like I said, I'm not going to do it in a whole lot of detail. As a starting point, let's talk about the major scale, because that's our frame of reference for everything that we do in music. Major scale is basically a set of intervals between notes and should sound familiar to you. It's got the formula 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and back to the octave. And that's the scale that you should be familiar with playing. If you're not familiar with it, learn it, because it is the frame of reference for everything that we do. Now, if we take the 6th degree of a major scale, we get what's known as the relative natural minor. What we can do is we can go through the major scale, take the 6th degree, so it's, in the case of C major, we've got C, D, E, F, G, and A is the 6th degree. And if we rearrange the same notes from the C major scale, but we use A as the root note, we end up with what's called the relative natural minor. Now, the relative natural minor uses the same note names as the relative major, but because of the way that they're arranged, the intervals between the notes are different. So using, say, this C major, A natural minor example, the third note of A major is C sharp, but in the case of the A natural minor, the third degree that we get is actually C natural, which is the third degree of A major flattened. So we said that the natural minor scale has a flat third degree. Likewise, the 6th and 7th degree of the natural minor scale are actually flat 6 and flat 7, because if you compare that major scale, that natural minor scale, and the major scale with the same root note, the 6th and 7th degree have outside notes that don't correspond to the relative major. So what we do is we flatten them, and that gives us a scale with a formula 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7 in the octave. And that's the relative natural minor. If anyone talks to you about the minor scale, chances are what they mean is they're talking about the natural minor. Now, there's another couple of minor scales that you might come across in music. The first one I'll talk about now is the harmonic minor. And the harmonic minor is, you can think of that as being a natural minor scale, but with a natural 7th degree. So whereas, using A as an example here, rather than A natural minor having 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, and then the octave, the harmonic minor has 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7 in the octave. And that's got quite a classical Gothic sort of sound. That's the harmonic minor. Okay, and the last one that I'll mention is the melodic minor. And the melodic minor, the formula for that is basically the same as a major scale, but with a flat third degree. So in the case of A, we'll use it because we're using A as our example here. That would have the formula 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the octave. Okay. Okay, so that's the 3 different types of minor scale. There's a few others that you might come across. There's some like minor modes, and some less common scales like Neapolitan minors and so on. But generally speaking, if we're talking about minor scales, the 3 that we'll generally come across are natural minor, harmonic minor, and melodic minor. And if anyone talks about the minor scale or talking about being in a minor key, talking about the natural minor. Okay, let's talk a bit now about the chords that we get within a key, because this was another point of confusion. The major scale has major chords and minor chords in it. Think about C major as an example. You know, we have, just using triads, we have C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished. And so the questioner came to me and said, well, I'm confused that when I harmonise out a major scale, I'm seeing minor chords. So when I look at a minor chord, you know, should I not be saying that, you know, I'm in a major key? Why am I seeing minor? Well, what you need to think about with chords isn't so much the names of the chords themselves; it's the key that they've been derived from. What we do when we harmonise a scale out in triads is we take alternate notes from each, starting on each degree, and build chords. So in the case of C major, we start on the C and take a C, E, and G. This is the 1, 3, and 5 degree of C major. Then on the second degree of D, you take a D, an F, and an A. Now if you look at the notes of D major, the 3rd degree of D major is F sharp. But because what we're doing here is we're harmonising a C major scale, if we come across a chord that's got a note that isn't diatonic, that doesn't belong to the key that we're harmonising, the parent major key, what we do is we make some sort of alteration. In the case of this D triad, what we do is we take the F sharp, 3rd degree, and lower it by a semitone to F natural. And that gives us a chord that only contains notes that belong to the key of C major. But because we've taken the 3rd degree and flattened it, we can't call that a major triad anymore because it doesn't have a major 3rd. There's an interval of a minor 3rd between the root and the 3rd degree, so what we call that is a minor triad. Likewise, we get a minor triad on the 3rd degree and on the 6th degree when we harmonise out the major scale. And that's why you get minor chords in major keys, because the notes in those chords belong to the key, and to get chords with notes that only belong to the key, sometimes you have to lower those 3rd degrees. So in the case of the diminished chord, lower the 3rd and the 5th degree, so we get notes that only belong to the key. You know, likewise, if we harmonise out a minor scale, you know, minor key, we end up with some major chords there. So in the case of A natural minor, we have a C major chord, we have a G major chord, and an F major chord. We have major chords in a minor key because we have chords that only contain notes that belong to the key. So there's no outside notes there. If we played a C minor rather than a C major because we're in a minor key, we'd have notes that don't actually belong to the key. So that would be wrong. So that's why we have the major chords. Now the last part in this series of questions was about if major scale and natural minor scale and the relative natural minor have the same notes in them, and therefore the same chords, what's the difference? If I'm playing in the key of C major, I've got C, D, E, F, G, A and B as the notes. I've got C major chord, D minor chord, E minor chord and so on. I've got the same notes and the same chords in A minor. So what's the difference when I'm playing what means that I'm playing in C major when I'm using those notes, and what means that I'm playing in A minor when I'm using the same notes and those same chords. What you need to think about is the chords and the principal chordal sounds within the key. Now, the notes that you're generally going to land on will be, the root, the fifth. You're going to want to resolve to the one chord, that sort of thing. Now, in the key of C major, or major key, the 1, 4, and 5 chord are always going to be major. So in the case of C major, we've got C major chord as the 1 chord, F major chord as the 4 chord, and G major as the 5 chord. We'll play something in the key of C major, we get something that sounds, just using those chord sounds, something that sounds typically major, typically happy and upbeat, something like, Okay, so that sounds quite major, quite happy. If we think about the A minor scale, A minor key of A minor, we've got the 1 chord, 4 chord and 5 chord are always going to be minor. So in case of A minor, we've got A minor, D minor and E minor. And if we play those 1, 4 and 5 chord patterns from the key of A minor, we'll get something that sounds much different sort of feel, much more minor, sadder sort of sound. You hear the difference there. So that's sort of what tells you when you're playing in a major key or a minor key. If you're using the 1, 4, emphasising the 1, 4 and 5 chords, are the major or minor. That gives you the major sound or the minor sound. So that major and minor, for all that contain the same notes and the same chords, they aren't instantly interchangeable. Okay, so hopefully that clears up some of the ambiguity about the different types of minor scale and why we have majors in minors and vice versa. Like I say, I'm not going into the theory in a lot of detail here, but there's some other tutorials linked down there if you want a bit more information about how chord construction works and using the major and natural minor scale and so on. Okay, so I hope you found that useful, and see you in another video sometime soon. Bye for now.